Hello and welcome to True Crime Rocket Science, the most authentic voice in true crime. The most critical evidence in the Laurie Vallow case also happens to be the most astonishing. If the Doomsday trio, that's Laurie, Chad and Alex, if they thought they could act with impunity, if they thought they could hide their movements by buying burner phones, what they didn't count on are the long fingers of the algorithm. Just because you buy a burner phone, if you access your emails or anything like that, all of that data basically slips through the cracks into your new phone. According to Fox13now.com, quote, the state called FBI Special Agent Nick Balance, who's part of the FBI's Cellular Analysis Survey Team, or CAST. They take cell phone data and they track it on a map, for example. This process and technology is used regularly in the cases of homicides, missing persons, etc. And it's kind of a case where a picture tells 1,000 words. I was sitting in court looking at these colorful maps and arrows on them and everything, and it's one of those instances where you can't really describe what you're seeing. You really wanted to take a photo, and of course we can't do that. So, in the early days when Tylee and JJ went missing, although it was certain at a certain point that the children were unfortunately both deceased, what was far less certain was the when and the where. And there was a period where it seemed like we might never know either of those answers. And for as long as we didn't know the where, the when seemed even less likely to be able to ascertain. But then there was a breakthrough, and that breakthrough was the discovery of Chad's nuttier than usual raccoon SMS. As soon as they saw that, it provided a vital clue, or it sort of suggested that a vital clue was in the offing. And guess what? That's exactly what it was. Because what that did was it placed Chad somewhere specific, somewhen specific, within a particular mythos, a mythos of someone who's at home digging a grave in his pet cemetery, someone who just fired a firearm and set fire to something. And so if that was the first breakthrough clue, the GPS data was the icing on the cake. Before we get to the rest of this episode, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do. By the way, tomorrow I'll be in court again for my penultimate coverage of the Laurie Vallow case. It's possible that I'm going to not come back to the trial. It's possible that it'll be my second last day. Wednesday will be the final day that I provide coverage. It's not for sure, but it's possible I might come back to Boise after a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks or whatever. But it's also possible that I'm not going to return. So the coverage, the consistent coverage, the coverage from the courtroom is basically going to terminate on Wednesday. So you've got 2 more days to enjoy TCRS in the courtroom. If you're enjoying this episode, please like, share, leave a comment. You can also hit the thanks button, and let's get started. So it turns out that the GPS data has an accuracy level of 3 meters in this case. And that's very important. If it was 30 meters or 100 meters, it would have dubious use, because you wouldn't really be able to say whether someone was necessarily on the property or not, or inside a structure on the property or not, right? And what that means is, how can there be an innocent explanation for someone standing close to one grave outside Chad's home on one day, and then Tylee's never seen from or heard from again, but someone is standing right next to her grave? And then a signal hovers around the other gravesite on a different day, and this will obviously be covered on trial day 11 tomorrow. And then, of course, JJ is never seen from or heard from again, right? And so the Vallow case is likely to be seen as a warning, I think, to would-be criminals. And you actually kind of got a sense also of just how detailed some of the cellular data could be, and also telematics in the Suzanne Morphew case. But anyway, the warning is, don't take your phone with you when committing a crime. Don't even take your burner phone with you. And I think Brian Koberger, he must be ruining all the days that he went stalking with his phone. And Alex Murdaugh must be kicking at the walls of his jail cell after being outed by his son's random Snapchat video. I mean, without that, what could they really have definitively proved? And I mean, that is why Alex Murdaugh actually had to take the stand, was to explain why he actually was there when he said that he wasn't. So in this case, if the prosecution have laid the groundwork for a circumstantial case, the GPS data led today will start tying, I think, all of that into neat little bows. Today felt like a long, plodding introduction to arguably the best evidence in the state's arsenal. It may be an uneasy night for Laurie and her defense team, because on the issue of whether the prosecution have done enough or demonstrated enough, this evidence is certainly very, very compelling. Does it connect? Remember, this is the ambit of what the prosecution need to prove. Conspiracy. Is Laurie connected to some kind of, conspiracy, some kind of organized attempt to do away with other individuals, in this case her children. But basically, does this evidence connect Laurie to Alex and Chad? Does it demonstrate a conspiracy potentially in action? Does it geographically link Laurie in the Rexburg apartment to Chad, on Chad's property? And I think you've got to ask the question, really, did somebody bury Laurie's children on a property and the person who lived there didn't know about it, didn't talk about it, didn't agree to it? So piece by piece, the prosecution have been weaving a very strong case. And the search for wind direction by Chad Daybell on September 8th is once again, it feels like another nail in the defense's coffin. It's the timing of the search. And why would he search for something like that? Because of this whole idea of burning a body. And that also shows, I think, possible premeditation. That he knew the day before that he was going to potentially be burning something. According to the Daily Mail, quote, on the 8th of September in the afternoon hours, the user of an account that's linked to Chad Daybell looked up the wind direction, what it was going to be for the next day. In other words, on the afternoon of the 8th, he looked up the wind direction for the 9th. That's according to Stubbs, Detective Stubbs. Prosecutor Rachel Smith asked if anything struck him as significant about the finding. Stubbs said it did because of other things that he'd learned, and that's the day, 9 September was the day that Chad Daybell had said that he was going to burn tree limbs and killed a raccoon in the yard. The detective added, according to the Daily Mail, that the search reflected the wind was going to be blowing south-southwest. This wind direction would have blown any smoke across neighboring fields, away from nearby houses. And I've stood there, and I can tell you that there's a house immediately to the, if you're standing at the gate or at the driveway, there's a house immediately to the right of the Daybell property. There's another house directly opposite the road, whereas on the left side of the house, as you're facing it, and for I think a quarter mile going further, there are no other properties. And so if the wind was blowing south-southwest, it would be blowing away from these houses. And so you could do something like that without necessarily raising suspicion. So I'm not going to take it further than that, except to say that after court TV bumped into Alex's uncle Rex Connor. And actually there were quite a few family members in court today. Hence Laurie spent an inordinate amount of time glancing at the gallery. And even at one point we made eye contact. And then after I was just sort of blank. I didn't really have any expression on my face. And then after a moment, she blinked and looked away. And so I'm going to play out with the video that I took of the media scrum around Rex Connor. Hope you find it worth listening to. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you guys next time.
Gratitude is one emotion that you can't express. Thank you. All right. Run. This is the first time. All of this is devastating. We deal with things in our family with humor a lot. There's not a lot of humor in this, so whatever humor there is dark. So I won't share any of that, but none of us are doing great. Just like any of the other people that aren't related. Anyone that's touched by this, it's devastating for all of us. About 5 years. I don't know. We made eye contact a couple times, but I don't know the same person that's in there that I talked to for the last 5 years. I don't know from a legal perspective. I can't talk to that. I think everyone's grateful that it's here and progressing, and I think we're all at least hopeful, if not confident, that justice will be served for the victims involved. My daughters. I was with 3 of my daughters that are here with me. We all want to just experience. We hope the message to people, Lori in particular, is that this affects everyone that's following. It affects us all negatively. It's uniting in the fact that we're all united and want to see justice, but it's just touched now millions of people. Everyone that follows it, we aren't any different. We have background information that other people don't have, just from being in family. We don't have information and stuff like that. We all pray them, we all want them, and we all want justice. We need a podcast for that instead of and I don't know is the right answer. I really don't. I don't know what that looks like. I do know that I want the outcome for all of us to get the answers we want, so we can get some type of peace and some type of closure to this. I don't think we'll get all of the answers, but
you guys were sitting in the prosecution section. People reach out.
We don't see ourselves here as for or against someone. We're here that the victim's advocate was nice enough to give us seating, and that's where they sat us, and that's where we sat. I don't know how she copes with it. I don't know.
Here all week?
Just a couple more days.
Anybody else have questions?
Have you spoken with Kay and Larry? I just met them for the first time today. Glad to meet them. Glad to express appreciation for them, for getting this whole process started, for caring enough. I just can't thank them.
Can I ask you about JJ and what you guys missed there?
That's hard for all of us. And, it's embarrassing for me to get too emotional. The situations, how long want to talk too much about that. But we all miss him, even those of you that didn't know that this thing, at this point. That's no different than us. Alex and I were very close before all this started. Before he converted to that way, we were close.
It seemed like he was someone like pretty and
He was freaking hilarious.
he did it from you?
No, he did not. Again, that was a different Alex than I saw once or twice after he converted to this way of thinking, and that was a different person. So I don't know the Alex that did these horrible, horrible things. No, I don't.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much, Raccoon.
Being a good mom is very important to me, and a good wife, and a good worker, and being all those things together is not easy. So I'm basically a ticking time bomb.